Hey everyone, welcome back to Lifetime Talks. I'm Jamie Martin.
And I'm David Freeman.
And this is one of those episodes where we're not having a guest. You get the two of us today, which we're kind of excited about. We've only done this one other time. It was, I think, in late 2021, we got together and just kind of wrapped up the year, but also looked ahead to 2022. We're kind of taking that same approach this time, looking ahead to 2023 and where the two of us are at. How are you feeling?
It went by fast. I feel like every time we get towards the end of a year, we talk about how fast, time really goes by. And when you take everything into consideration over these past 2 to 3 years, so much has happened. So when we talk about planning and how to go about planning, it's inevitable. And as we continue to evolve within our craft and what we're doing in our day to day, you can see how essential planning is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, days are going to continue to go by, time is going to continue to fly. But if you knowing that you're making progress based off of a plan that you created, it's so much more rewarding. So I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, me too. And it's so interesting. I just had this moment of flashback to this period of my life where I was having kids, right?
Yeah.
And I was such a planner. I was like, hey, I'm going to plan how this all goes, like from like how I was going to approach like the whole like childbirth experience. I'm just going to go there right now. And I had this whole plan in place, right? And it was great. And I needed to have that. But in the end, I ended up just switching it to preferences. And so
Mm.
I have preferences for how things could go because things don't always go as planned. So I think of the plan, but I also think like these are my preferences within things. And like if I can lean this way, but then I want to have a choice, right? At
Yeah.
different points. Like there's choice points in all of our lives at different phases. And so what does that mean? And like I think when it comes to health and well-being, plans do tend to work better, but we still have to
Yeah.
be willing to flex and say, if I can do it this way, I prefer it this way than that. If that makes
Yeah.
any sense whatsoever.
It does. It does. I'll give you another P word. We got preference, we got plan, just preparation, like just
Oh, yeah.
knowing how to be prepared in a situation. To your point, it's almost like another P word, practice. Like we're doing all these different things, but then when it's a game day, there's so many
Yeah.
different variables that can come in. So you're practicing, you're planning, you're preparing, and that's setting you up for success. Now, is it always going to be an ideal situation? No, but from that experience, you learn and you now know how to approach it the next time it comes around. So having a plan does matter. And
Yep.
within that preference or preparation, that's where you're going to start to massage and navigate how to go about things when it's thrown your way.
Yeah, it's kind of becomes like an if this then that type thing as
Correct.
well within it.
Yep.
So you have that. That's what the practice is in preparation. So what are you doing or what are you thinking for 2023 for
It's funny
yourself?
that you asked that. I mean, people say don't look too far ahead. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm on like 2024, 25 over here. But I mean, I think big. And I've always thought in that mindset of like what could happen, the potential if you take yourself here and think in
Yeah.
this way. So I think big and to the point that it should scare you a little bit. And I posted something the other day is like it's almost like you're trying, we call them haters or whatever it may be, but you're really just trying to prove yourself right by the end of the day. It's not even about the individual. They might motivate you in a sense to like, aha, I told you so. But it's really about like, I am who I am. And we
Yeah.
use the reference that, and I'm so grateful that I have it now, the trusting your dopeness, like really being able to
Hmm.
tap into what exists within you.
Yeah.
So when you ask the question, going back to what you said there, um, I just want to be consistent
Mm.
within what I have been doing. Not
Yeah.
not falling short of that, but surrounding myself with other individuals that definitely challenge me to think bigger as well. Because when you're constantly in that situation where a lot of people are pulling from you and they're developing, that's a rewarding thing. Like seeing somebody change within that
Yeah.
space is definitely a rewarding thing. But it's also about like how am I excelling in my space and how am I surrounding myself with individuals that challenge me as well. So staying consistent, but continuing to evolve mentally, physically, and spiritually.
I love that for you. I mean, it makes total sense and it still like that's you pushing a little bit farther all the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? I got to throw it right back at you. Boomerang. Come on.
Yeah, I know, boomerang right back to me. I went when I was thinking about this and preparing for this conversation, I went to a lot of like the physical health stuff, right? Like I
Okay.
was thinking about, I feel like I have been really, really consistent over the years with my programming. And as you know, like I follow your program in the
Mhm.
app and in the Lifetime app and do a lot of those things. So I've been really consistent. But when I was thinking about what haven't I done as consistently, it's the sleep side. Like that's a thing I've been compromising. So I really am focused in 2023 on sleep, because knowing how essential that is to our overall well-being. We've done episodes on this already, right? Like we know what happens, like our bodies, it's a rest and repair and a recover period in our lives. And we need that. And I will fully admit that there were times when like, as my kids have gotten older, they're staying up later, which means my alone time in the day gets pushed later and later because I just still need that time. But I realize like I'm kind of exhausted because I haven't changed my morning routine. I'm still getting up just as early as I was, even if they're still, if they were going to bed earlier. So I'm getting a lot less sleep and feeling the effects of that. So really focusing on sleep. And then another thing, and we actually talked about this in another episode, which I'm not sure if it's going to air before or after this, so I'm just going to reframe it. But we were talking with our friend Danny King about fitness competitions. And I have been super consistent, but I haven't really pushed myself really hard. And so one of my bigger goals and kind of things I'm going to work on and have a plan for and hopefully progress through is hopefully doing like a weight, like powerlifting type competition, more of like the Alpha Showdown type of thing. So that's going to be my push for 2023. It's totally outside my comfort zone, but I love lifting weights and I kind of just want to see what's possible. I'm in this next decade of my life and I know where I was in my 20s and 30s. Now in my 40s, what do I want to do? So,
well, you know what I love about that? I love the awareness piece.
Yeah.
I feel like so many people struggle with there's so much that they're thinking about doing, but they haven't really addressed like what they're not doing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you just said it. It was the awareness of like my morning routine. What has changed? Oh, okay. I'm staying up later because my kids are staying up later. And understanding as far as, I can be consistent within this thing, but now I have to change this up if I want this to yield that result. So that awareness is huge. And we had a conversation the other day. We were talking about understanding like value and cost. And this goes right into that lane. And a lot of times we're associating cost usually to some type of financial piece, but we're just talking about the cost of your energy right now.
Yes.
And the value of your time is what we're talking about as well. So I want to throw this one at you. When coming into preparation or planning, how do you associate value to cost? Like they're two different things. And I know they kind of interchange, but when you look at something value-wise versus cost-wise, let me know your thought process when you hear those two words.
Well, I think value is both what you put in and what you get out, right? Of it. And so I think I've got to think about how you phrase that. Like, oh, you kind of got me stumped here. It's like what you put in and what you get out, right? That's the value, right? And sometimes that value is going to feel like it's the cost of it, the value isn't worth it, right? And so I think it's like valuing like, okay, if it's going to cost me this, I want it to be valued at this. I kind of want to find that balance within the two, because if I'm going to devote time and energy to something like a fitness competition, I really want to see like, what's the value to that? Like, what am I going to get out of it in the long run? It's not just me doing that competition, but it's also me modeling something for my kids or setting an example or being able to share that story and maybe inspire somebody else to do it. So to me, it's like the cost is it's going to be the time and energy and the input. And like, sometimes it's going to be the obstacles like that you face within it. But then it's like what you get out of it. Is it worth it? Yeah. If my kids see me being strong and healthy and that inspires them, if it inspires, whether it's listeners of this podcast or readers of the magazine, or just like it inspires me to push myself to be better in one other way in the future too. I think that's where the value comes in. If it's like the cost is really high, but I'm like not feeling like it's worth it, like, oh, it just was not a good use of my time and energy, then I will say, no, I'm not going to do it. But there's other things. It's not just the physical results, but it's like these other more nuanced things. I don't even know if that made any sense, but that's in my head.
And I mean, I'm going to pull it back for everybody to kind of just, connect the dots here. But when you really break down what you just said, we associate so much time when we look at, okay, if you're about to invest the time and money into a program or a workout or supplement or whatever it may be, we're looking for that immediate result.
Right.
And that's
Yes.
where people associate the cost. And it's crazy to me because, you know, when we think of gift giving or when it comes around like holiday times, we don't even bat, or grocery shopping, we don't even bat an eye if we're going to go get some milk
Yes.
or it could be the whatever designer purse or it's crazy. We don't bat an eye.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I'm guessing it's because you can see it, so therefore it's like everybody else can see it, so therefore it's
Right here.
associated to
It's right here,
versus
right now.
and when we look at our health, we don't treat it the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could do the burpees and the runs and all that, but you're stepping on the scale and it's not moving the way you want it to move it. So therefore, you're like, oh, this
Yeah.
is a waste of time and money. And the reality is, you're looking at the bigger picture. And I like what you said there is you're modeling a behavior for the kids to see.
Yeah.
In return, you're able to probably do more things with your kids later on in life,
Yes.
but nobody's thinking of that slow investment, almost that time. Just
Yep.
like what you do with investments, like it appreciates over time.
Yes.
If you put in
Yes.
the effort and stay consistent with it, it yields great benefits.
Well, and I think it's something you and I talk about a lot. It ties back to our purpose, right? And that ties back to more intrinsic motivations versus extrinsic. If I'm just going to do a fitness competition because I want to get buff, right? Like I want to be toned, like that isn't going to last for me, right? But
Right.
it's got to be tied back to something deeper and something less physically, like it doesn't have to be about the aesthetics. And that's where I have in the past gotten really caught up in that and failed miserably. And we all have
Mhm.
to go through that, right? But I think if we look at it with those, our intrinsic motivation often goes back to what's our purpose, what's our why. And you talk
Yeah.
about that so beautifully all the time.
Hmm. Yeah, you got to watch what you're consuming too. And I'm not
Hmm.
talking about food. I'm talking about when you're on these social platforms and you're seeing certain things. So
Yeah.
therefore, you're starting to identify with, oh, this is what I need, or this is what I need to look like. And it goes back to when you are in that creative mode and creating of like, no, this is who I am and this is what
Yeah.
I'm going to do. That's why it's so important for you to have a clear understanding as far as who you are when you're going about planning.
I love that. Okay, so I think, obviously we're kind of thinking about this episode as like why plans matter, right? So
Yeah.
we've talked
Yeah.
about it for a little bit for us individually. You're a coach. You work with people all the time.
Yeah.
I am a magazine editor. We are constantly planning multiple issues way out in the world. And it really makes it like way out in the world, way out in the distance is what I mean. We're planning 7 months out in many cases. But I think when it comes to fitness,
Yeah.
there's plans and there's programs. And there's an article on Experience Life by our friend Sam McKinney about
Yeah.
like the difference between workouts and programs and
Yeah.
plans. And I
Yeah.
know this is something you're really passionate about. So I think we should talk about that a little bit because it can make all the difference in your own health and wellness progress.
For sure. So a lot of times, let's go ahead and just break it down. So like a workout is what exactly it sounds like. It's a workout. You're going to sweat, you're
Yeah.
going to move. Yeah, and it's fun. That's what a workout is. And you'll see a dime a dozen of them on social platforms. You can walk outside, see somebody probably doing a workout, right?
Yep.
When it comes to a program, that's putting all the pieces to the puzzle.
Mhm.
So movement is part of a program. Recovery is part of a program. Sleep, as you said earlier, is part of a program. Nutrition is part of a program. And the management of your stress day to day is part of a
Yeah.
program. So having a full thought out process of understanding those elements is part of the program. And you need usually, I say this all the time, the best of the best. They have coaches, and I felt like I referenced this when we were talking about competitions. Is like understanding you need guidance in this space. Even being a subject matter expert around movement, I still seek out guidance so I can become better in this space.
Yep.
So just understanding, yes, you might know how to squat, lunge, and whatever else it may be. Yes, you know what cardio is, but knowing how to approach it in the way that I want to be efficient during this workout so I get the most out of this workout matters. So you yield the results that you're going for. So workouts are fun and you can get them. I might do a workout on a Sunday on like kettlebell kings representing alpha, right? And
Yeah.
that's a workout. It's a 15-minute blaster and you got movement going. I applaud that and that's great. But if you're doing that every other Sunday, that's a workout. A
Right.
program is consisted of 7 days a week, making sure you're hitting on all those elements I just mentioned around nutrition, sleep, so
Yeah.
on and so forth. So it's a full thought out process as a program to get results.
Right. And it's progressive, right? And it's
Correct.
progressive to help you like kind of go through this cycle at various different points. So you peak at different points and you recover at points, all those elements of it. So one
Yeah.
thing building on that, as you're getting to a program, one thing as I was prepping for this episode too, I was looking back at some articles we've done on Experience Life, and I was thinking about, it kind of goes back to like the process of even getting to a program, like
Yeah.
why you want to do it in the first place. And it's looking at where are you right now? What's calling you? What are you feeling driven to do? So there's this
Yeah.
whole kind of initial assessment as we have to do as individuals to figure out where we want to go. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking about this cycle. It's kind of this assessment, commitment, feedback, and follow through.
I
And
like it. Yeah.
that's part of what's within a plan and a program, because we have to assess where we are. Then we get to
Yep.
the commitment, which is the what, why, and how, the who's going to hold
Mhm.
us accountable, the
Yep.
how are we going to do this? Are we going to do, a program like yours, David? Or am I going to sign up for a signature group training program? Am I going to do these different elements? And then it's the when can I do this so it actually fits in my life as sustainable? And
Yeah.
then we go to feedback. Like once you're in it, you kind of start to see results
Mhm.
happening or not. So then you
Yeah.
start to question it like, okay, well, what's working here? What's not? And then kind of iterating, right? And innovating based on that. Cause then you get to follow through and you have to you have to do the whole thing over again,
All
multiple
over
times
again.
through. So it's this
Yeah.
whole cycle within the plan because you're going to constantly be progressing and
Yeah.
running into obstacles that force you to kind of think about what's next and
Yeah.
how to do
I
things
mean,
differently.
you frame it up. I mean, and a lot of our listeners probably can, relate to this. It's like what you said, it's a cycle. It's like a life
Yep.
cycle. Like who you were from the ages of 1 to 6, 7, 8. Then when you became a teenager, then when you started to get into like adulthood, like you're
Yeah.
still doing a lot of these patterns. It's just you're evolving within them. So it's the
Yep.
same exact concept. And I kind of always frame it up as far as like you always want to have that strong foundation. It usually helps a lot.
Yep.
But it's never too late if you don't have that strong foundation. You can still learn in that space. So first, establishing the strong foundation. I always say those first 3 months, think of
Mm-hmm.
that as that strong foundation. So if you were to say January, February, March, I'm establishing a foundation. Yes,
Yep.
I will go through phases throughout these 3 months, but this is my foundation. That next phase for the next 3 months would be what I call like the transformation phase. Now, you might see a few results in those first 3 months, but then this is where the body's like, whoa, I'm starting to adapt to a new stimulus. Change is
Right.
starting to happen. I can feel I'm getting stronger. My wind is getting better. My sleep is getting better. Like you start to really own in on that foundation and the
Yep.
transformation happens. The last 3 months, I call it mastery. So you're
Yeah.
taking the first 6 months of all the things that you've learned, and now you're able to apply with not as much assistance. That's not to
Right.
say you no longer need assistance. It's just you probably don't need as many touch points with the assistance because
Yeah.
of that strong foundation. So that's how I always frame it up. It's not for Jamie to come to me as a coach and you stay with me for 20 years,
Right.
right? It's more of like me getting you set up for success. And yeah, you can ping me here and there once you understand how to flow, and maybe we have a session once a week here and there, but you have the blueprint of what it means to be successful.
Right. And then you always have somebody who's kind of you're accountable to along the way as well.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love kind of thinking about it in that kind of even like a time frame. Because
Yeah.
when you think about it, that foundational phase that you're talking about really is that kind of assessment and commitment phase, right?
Yep.
I'm building
Yep.
the habits. I'm really tapping into my why of what I'm doing this. And then you get into that transformation phase and like kind of months 3 through 6. That's when your body's getting all sorts of feedback. You're getting
Yep.
results. You're, dealing with an injury and figuring out how do I work with that? Or, like there's all these things that happen, but you get yourself these spaces to kind of continue to transform and
Yeah.
change. And sometimes in
Mhm.
ways that are super subtle. And I
Yeah.
think one thing that it is really important, like, how am I doing on a program? Like, what am I measuring as success for a lot of
Yes.
people? Because again, we talk like sometimes we can be all about the pounds lost or the body fat percentage. But if we really stop and think about what else has changed as a result of this effort I'm putting in, it's often things that are unexpected. And so I'd
Yeah.
love to hear, like, as somebody who's working with people every
Yeah.
single day, like you have so many amazing touch points. Like, what are some of those additional kind of things to be watching for as you're getting into a program beyond the number on the scale or the body fat percentage loss, which those can be still really important measures, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Better energy, much more productive at work, having energy to play with their kids, noticing that their sleep pattern is better, hydration is gone up, like they're just happier. And
Yeah.
it's so crazy. It's like we don't associate that as success. It's like you being happy is a great thing. And what it yields also is like it's your happy place now. Like you're associating a feeling to like, oh, my workout, and now this brings happiness to me. I'm more productive at work. I'm more productive in engaging with my family. That is a great measure, in my opinion, of success.
Yep.
And as much as what you just said, the aesthetic pieces that everybody, goes for, by the end of the day, going back to the identity piece and the people who love you,
Yeah.
so like just making sure that you understand that from a foundational standpoint too,
Mm-hmm.
is I know what's being marketed. Being in the health and fitness industry for so long, like the six pack, the biceps, the glutes, like of course, like that's the sale.
Yeah.
But the reality is what's going on the inside. And if we look at, that's the physical health piece of it, we have so many people struggling with mental health. So to answer your question, the success piece that I've seen that people really, really start to appreciate when you bring it to their attention is like, oh, wow, I am happier. I used to come in here at 5 a.m. like mad at the world. And now I'm
Yep.
smiling, giving people high fives.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's how I would answer that.
Well, that's quality of life. I mean, like, yeah,
Mhm.
there's a quantity that's probably happened somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But your quality of life improved, and you just think about how that shifts how you move through your day to day. Like, that's kind of amazing. Well, and you
Yeah.
were kind of getting to something, like the marketing that happens around this. And often in a new year, it's that time, there's resolutions. There's
Yeah.
this mindset sometimes that less is more. I need to eat less. I need to stop doing this. I need to stop. There's that. But I think a lot of the stuff that we talk about is like sometimes more is more, right? More
Yeah.
sleep, more protein,
Mhm.
more, I don't even know what else more, but like there's things that more recovery.
Yeah.
So I think there's a shift that needs to happen. I'm really excited because I see this happening within our world that we're in a lot, but
Yeah.
sometimes more is actually the key. When we focus on, like, if I focus on more protein, more fruits and veggies, more of these, like what that actually does, it crowds out the other stuff. It leaves less room, but you don't feel deprived. So the less
Right.
is not really a focus.
Correct. Correct. And that's what it comes back to, just having good people around you, and that
Mhm.
education and bringing that
Yeah.
about. Your circle of friends and trust and just the people who can help build you up in this space matters. Just because that's what you're constantly seeing. So whatever you're constantly seeing is what you're consuming. So therefore, that's the way you're going to start to think. And we
Yeah.
hear it a lot. You become a product of your environment. So if you understand, once again, who you are from an identity standpoint, and knowing who you are, if this or that is not the right thing for you, having the power to walk away is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, David, I mean, what else? I mean, what else would you want to cover in terms of plans, progress?
Yeah.
There's lots
Um,
that we could keep talking all day. I know
yeah.
we could just keep going, but
I would say, and this goes back to, remember when we had Lindsay Ogden on, it's just like,
Mhm.
give yourself like grace, like understand
Yeah.
that you're human. Failure is part of the process.
Yeah.
And knowing that when you do fail, you gain from that experience. And I always reference this whenever I'm doing some of these coach elevations around the nation, is like, we all had to learn how to ride a bike.
Yeah.
And how many times did we fall before we, finally got it? It's the
Yeah.
same thing with any and everything that you're approaching within your game plan. Like, understand that failure is part of the process, and that's how you learn, and
Yeah.
that's how you gain from that experience. So I would just strongly encourage not to, fall off the game plan just because you're not arriving at it in the time frame that you might have planned. Keep moving forward.
Right. Well, and I think what I'm hearing from you too is it's like it's not about going all in right from the beginning. It starts small in ways that you can keep going
Yeah.
so you keep building, right? It's
Yeah.
about that habit tracking. Like, even if it start with something small, like I just want to be hydrated enough. That's my initial goal.
Right.
I just want to sleep a little more in the month of January, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to start with that. I'm not going to try to sleep more in the month of January and cut out some food thing because I have maybe a sensitivity, whatever. Like, I need to start with one thing and build, right? And
Right.
so give ourselves that permission to start small and build. And then when we slip, which we inevitably will, because that's
Yeah.
what it is to be human,
Right.
we can begin again. There's never, it's kind of like we're talking about this in the January issue of Experience Life. The theme of it is begin again. And it's kind of goes back to this idea of yoga, like where, you're in yoga and you're breathing and your mind gets distracted. Come back to your breath, right? come back to your goals, revisit
Yep.
where you want to go. Just because you ate the whole row of Oreos doesn't mean you have to eat the whole pack, right? You can start again, like that's
Right.
my weakness there. I ate all the Oreos, but it doesn't mean I can't start over or try differently or just have one the next time. So start small.
Right. Yeah. I like that. Celebrate all the little wins, celebrate the big wins when they come. But to your point, just keep moving forward. I love that.
Exactly. All right. Well, David, my friend, my fellow podcaster, we can sign
Yeah,
off
yeah.
here. So we have some resources tied to all of this that we'll share in the show notes for everybody. If you have any questions for us, things like that, you can always email us in our inbox, which you'll hear the email address for that in the close of the show. But that's what I've got for today. David, anything else?
No, just keep moving forward. Stay strong, live long.
I love it. You've always got the right closer for us. It's so good. Thanks,
Awesome.
everybody. Thanks for listening.
See y'all later.